this compute. Bam. All right, we're good. All right, I'm gonna do the little janky intro, and we're gonna go from there. Okay, so
I like janky
clap.
intros.
Um, all right. So this is another episode of Kicking Game. The Sahiba interview series. I believe Sahiba is the Arabic word for for sister.
I
If
love it.
I'm wrong,
I love
correct me if I'm wrong.
it. All right.
But I'm here with first off, Kicking Game only brings on distinguished, illustrious,
Oh goodness. Using the word
esteemed guests.
illustrious.
What I mean, it's fit, is it not?
All love. All love. Thank you.
So, in keeping in theme with we're bringing on esteemed, illustrious, vaunted individuals from the Black community at Touch University. We have um, someone that I'm very proud to know as a friend, compadre. We went through the
Absolutely.
fire together, and she epitomized what was basically um, superwoman at the school. She
Oh
did everything, and I was just a plebeian, just trying to push her and support her in her on all her exploits. And even though I didn't know what she did, I still appreciate her because she was fighting the fight where I had no idea the fight was at. So, what I am very proud to introduce Miss Jessica Wilson hyphen Jones, class of 2014. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great, Rob. I'm super excited to be here with you, man. Like this is anytime, first of all, anytime you call me, we're on the phone for like an hour anyway. And just so I that's how I see this, not a podcast, but just, you and I catching up and seeing how we're doing. But I'm doing okay. People ask that a lot and I always add a how are you doing today? Because every day is a little bit different, especially in this environment in this year. Definitely been some
Hmm.
difficult days, but we are pushing through and making sure we take care of ourselves as we do that. So today I'm okay
Okay.
because I'm talking to you.
Today you are. Oh, okay. Feel that? All right. We. So I know that we always chop it up, and I love going places, but for the people who do not have the privilege of knowing the intricacies of Jessica, let's start from the beginning. Let's start in the genesis.
Okay.
So who? So Jessica Wilson, who from the young lass to the woman we see before us or we hear before us. How do we get there?
Oh man, young lass. So I always say that my story starts way before obviously me and my conception. It's definitely my parents and my family and my ancestors. My dad is now 80. He turns 82 in a couple weeks. Um,
Salute.
a salute. That's the love of my life. And he is from New Orleans, Louisiana. Grew up. Was born in 1939. Grew up subsidized housing in New Orleans, and definitely a single mother and not an easy background, but he joined the Navy when he was 18, and that is really how he got exposed to the world and all opportunities that came with it. The good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with the military, especially during that era. But I'm so incredibly proud of what he's done for himself and for his family, and for all his kids. So that's
Okay.
my dad's side of the family. My mom is from Egypt. She's Egyptian and Sudanese, and is a phenomenal, incredible woman. She is why I am who I am today in so many respects. They met in Egypt. He was working there and fell in love with this beautiful Egyptian woman, and he got super lucky to have her to call him back.
There you go.
And
Craw daddy,
right,
making it
right. I was
happen.
like, okay, Dad. I was like, listen, you were just out here flexing all of your muscles. But
Yo.
they met in Cairo. They fell in love. They got married. They had me, and so I grew up.
Yo.
Egypt. I spent my first 10-ish years in Cairo. And, a lot of folks like who are American and lived abroad or were born abroad, they might come from, a foreign service. Their parents could be in the foreign service or whatnot. And that wasn't the case for me. Like I went to an American school there, and so I grew up around that echelon of people, right? Like your wealthy Egyptians and then your expat community. But my home, like that's my school life, right? But at home, my upbringing was very different. My mom made sure that even though financially we may have had these opportunities and these educational privileges and like this access into that space, she didn't want that to get into my head in any kind of capacity. And so my family in Egypt is very much, I would say middle class now, but growing up, it was, a little lower than middle class, I would say. And that's,
Okay.
that is where we went and would hang out with cousins and family every day. And so when I go back to Egypt now, that's what I go back to. I don't go back to this sort of, upper socioeconomic class. I go back to my family. And so my connection to the Middle East and my connection to Egypt and my connection to that culture, I would say is really unique because I feel very much attached and embedded to how I grew up. And it's fueled me and it's made me who I am today and how I navigate different spaces and different countries and different people. Because I was able to sort of be in a little bit of both worlds growing up, always. Whether it be American and Arab, whether it be Muslim and, not Muslim, whether it be different socioeconomic statuses, like I was so exposed at such a young age, and I feel like that's kind of shaped who I am today. But yeah, so we moved to San Diego when I was about 10. And so I grew up there, love San Diego, left, I still don't know, but here we are. I got to meet you, so that's good. Um,
Yeah.
and I ended up going to high school out in San Diego, La Jolla Country Day School, shout out. And then I went to Tufts and I studied international relations and Arabic at Tufts and had a phenomenal time. We will definitely dig into that in a bit, I'm sure. And
Yes.
now I am in Baltimore. Hello. How did I end up in Baltimore?
Hey, there
It's
you go.
still a surprise to me, but listen, I love this city. I am a ride or die to Baltimore always. Baltimore, there's no T. It's just no T. It's silent. Make sure that's
Baltimore.
make sure that's very clear. I remember my first week I was living here. I was walking with Justin, and we were having a personal one-on-one conversation. I was like, "Babe, I'm so happy we're in Baltimore." And this random person in the street, he goes, "It's not Baltimore, it's Baltimore." And I was like, "Okay." So make
Okay.
sure that's very
Duly noted.
right. Make sure that's very clear. But yeah, we moved out here about 3 years ago, and I still commute into DC for work, but I love it. I love it. So that's where we are now.
Hmm. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. So, did you choose Baltimore because it was in proximity to DC and you had that international relations slash like foreign affair kind of vibe and you wanted to get into that
Yeah.
industry?
It's a mix. It's a mix of like practicality and things that are personal. So after then we could take a step back. After Tufts, I went back to San Diego. I worked for the International Rescue Committee, doing refugee resettlement work in San Diego, and I loved it. To this day, it's one of those careers or jobs that is very near and dear to my heart. But if you have any
Hmm.
ounce of empathy, it's really difficult to be in that space and very much one-on-one with clients. You end up taking a lot of their trauma, and it can be a lot. It can be a lot. But I did that for some time, loved it, and then an opportunity came knocking to come to DC, and join the Obama administration. And so I packed up my bags and I shipped all my stuff across country. And I lived in Silver Spring for quite some time. And so
Fancy.
while I was working, yeah, while I was working in DC, I was living in Maryland, technically in Silver Spring. When I was working for the Obama administration at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And then when the administration changed, I ended up landing a job at the State Department. And so that's where I'm at now. And so when Justin moved down from Boston, and I'll tell you guys the story about Justin and I in a little bit, because I think it's actually super interesting, and Rob loves Justin. So we'll definitely get into that.
We're going to get into that.
We'll
I
get
like
into
it.
that. Because it's actually really important that I talk about Black love, because I think it's really, really, it's really important. I'll leave it at that.
We're bringing the heat today. God damn it! I like it.
We're bringing the heat. So we were looking for houses in DC. We really wanted to buy a house. We're married, but we want to buy a house. And I was like, I am not buying a 1-bedroom, 400 square foot apartment for money. Like, this is ridiculous. And we have such a big family, and we're very much, centered around family, and they visit a lot. And I wanted space for us to be comfortable. And so we started looking, in the suburbs, and I was like, I'm not ready for the burbs yet. Like, I'm not ready for that life. But we'd always come to Baltimore for baseball games. We'd come to the Orioles and the Red Sox because tickets were like $15. And
Right.
we would just come and hang out and do bars and bar hopping for a little bit, catch a game, and take the train back. And so we started looking around Baltimore and realized the housing market here is way cheaper and way more affordable. And I love the community here. Baltimore is entrenched in Black history. It is Black and brown people everywhere, and so is DC, but in a very different way, in a very transient way. But Baltimore has community, and that's really what drew us to the city. And so we ended up. Wow, we're really gonna get deep today, Rob. So we ended up buying for our first property. This is our first entree into real estate, and we're both 26, 27 at that point. And we ended up buying
Beautiful.
a 5-unit building. And
House hacking 5 units.
Listen, we are all about the house hack, and this is something that Justin and we love real estate. We're actually working on a little side hustle that I'll tell you guys about in a little bit. But we ended up going through, because we were able to save some money and we were able to get a little bit of help from our parents. We used an FHA loan. I'm getting really technical here, so I want you guys to Google this. But if you are looking at a first property, whether you're single or a couple, it doesn't matter, see what you're pre-approved for. But as your first property, you technically are qualified for something called FHA loan. Only have to put down 3.5% of a property's, as a down payment. And so we were able to buy this 5-unit building with the money we were able to save, which really, wasn't that much. And so we lived in one apartment, and we're renting out 3 apartments and a storefront for a year. And that's how we were able to save more money to buy our now sort of single family home. Now landlords, 100% landlords. We do not outsource anything. I am fixing toilets. Justin is fixing electrical stuff. We are there with tenants, dealing with things every weekend, and we love it. We love really that space, that autonomy, and that financial freedom that comes with having your own property and creating that generational wealth that our parents are able to give us, that we're able to give to our family one day. So that's something that we are super interested in, and we're looking to sort of explore doing kind of like a real estate consulting business, helping millennial buyers generate financial freedom through real estate. So that's something we're exploring right now. But long answer to your question, we chose Baltimore because we love it. It's a gem of a city. It has its issues, and that does not escape me in any kind of way. There are some foundational and fundamental institutional changes that we need to see in this city that comes with, white supremacy and the marginalization of Black and brown people and, low income people for generations. And so you see the
Hmm.
ripple effects of that until today, and it continues. But I have faith that with good leadership, with people that lead with empathy and that care, I think you can see a city like Baltimore totally surpass and do incredible things.
Well, if you were just in the city, then that means that y'all going to start y'all going to start the wave for other people to come through. So
Listen, I've already convinced
that's
like four
definitely.
of us to move here. So you're next, Rob. You're next.
Find me find me three doors in the storefront,
I
and
got
I'm there.
you. I got you. I got you. Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna talk about that after the fact, but
Okay.
for the youngins,
Yeah.
I want to dive into uh your Tufts University experience, the 4 years of just struggle bus. Like, you how what was your mindset going into Tufts? How many times did you just want to give up while at Tufts?
Yeah.
And how relieved were you when you walked across that stage?
Wow. Wow. Um, everybody's gonna have a very different answer to this, but there's definitely sort of an underlying current. We are Black students that are in a white institution, a historically white institution, and we're the minority. I mean, you're looking at the numbers, at least when I was there, it was around 4%, maybe a little bit less even. So that is the undercurrent. But everybody's experience is going to be unique and different depending on what they're coming in with, what experience they're coming in with, and how they're able to navigate a space like Tufts. So I was, fortunate enough in a way to have gone to a private institution prior to Tufts that was very similar. Tufts was just
Hmm.
bigger. I went from one white private institution to another, and so in high school I was able to go through some of the learning that learning curve and the growing pains, I would say.
Hmm.
At the same time very much coddled because I was still home. So I had my parents that were supporting me. I had a couple of teachers that were phenomenal, and pivotal, I would say, to my experience. And that school was able to fuel my confidence and my abilities to step into Tufts, and that transition wasn't so clunky. Um, in a way, right? But I remember sort of being at Tufts, and I remember the matriculation like day, and everybody's
Like
just
the first
the first
weekend.
yeah the first weekend, right? Like families and guardians and folks are dropping off, these 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, whatever, and we all just arrive and we just get plopped and we look like little chickens with our head cut off, just like walking around aimlessly and looking at this paper of like a map of Tufts, and we have no idea what the hell we're doing, truly.
Right.
um and some folks got to get there earlier with some of that pre-programming. I didn't do that. And so they had some friend groups here and there, and we immediately try to find someone who looks like us, right?
Yes.
To at least feel a little bit of that awkwardness lifted off, and just try to figure out how am I going to get through today to tomorrow. It's just so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable, and it takes, if you're somebody who needs people and is fueled by that transition can be so difficult. Um, and so for me, I would say like that's what I did. I reached out to sort of the Black community, and I remember we had the Cape In retreat, where we went to, I think, Cape Cod, and that was really awesome just to get to
Right.
know people, meet them outside of campus. But overall, I would say my experience at Tufts was a solid good, right? It wasn't this experience that was phenomenal or I'm just still till today I rave about it. But I don't know if that would have been the case anywhere. Like that's all, 2020 hindsight. If I was choosing literally between Tufts and Howard, two completely different
Whoa.
institutions, two completely different experiences. And I don't regret my decision in any kind of way. Now, would I have had a phenomenal time at Howard? Maybe, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I look at my time at Tufts and I say, thank you, life, for giving me this experience. What Tufts has to offer, it continues to offer, is doors that open in terms of your career and in terms of your academic and professional life. I just got off a call right
Mhm.
now. We just had Stacey Abrams talking with, the Tisch College and Fletcher. And how cool is that? Like, how cool is that these opportunities exist? And that would have been in person had it not been COVID. And you would have been able to see her in person probably at Tufts. Like, we got to see and do so much of that. And other schools do the same thing. I'm not sort of discounting my experience compared to somewhere else, but I just, as difficult as things can get, you need to make sure that you find your community and your outlet. And that looks different for different people, whether it be your friend group, whether it be clubs that you join, whether it be the Africana house or Capen house, whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be around race, excuse me. Um, but there are days where shit hits the fan and things get really difficult. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. But you just need to sort of have that willpower to find the space that makes sense for you. And here's the thing, if it doesn't exist, if you've looked for it and you've been seeking it and you just can't find it, then maybe Tufts is not it. And that's okay. We had plenty of people in our year that transitioned and transferred elsewhere and they thrived. And that's totally okay. That's totally okay. I think there's this sort of
Right.
mentality that once you enter college, you have to finish at that university. And that's not the case. If you're able to sort of make that transfer into a space that's more conducive to you, then by all means do that. But I also don't want to discount, that everywhere you go, as a Black woman, as a Black person, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be
Mhm.
challenges. You have to figure out what are your outlets and what are ways to navigate it. And we're here, right? What you're doing, Rob, and as the alumni community, we're all here to shepherd folks, to mentor folks, to provide advice, to be just a vessel where you can vent. We're all here to do that. It may not seem like it, but we are. And if there's things that what you're doing, Rob, just to connect folks. We exist and we've been in your shoes, and we've been in your shoes recently, right? It's one thing to talk to someone who graduated, well, now we're getting old, Rob. It's really scary. But folks who graduated, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but at least within the sort of the less than 10-year realm, um, we probably have been going through some of the same experiences, and we're here to help you succeed.
Right. I mean, we just dusted off of the diplomas for the first time, so like we're old, but we're not we're not that old.
I mean, we're a little old, but yeah. I got you. I'm scared. I am definitely scared to turn 30. I'm just like, what, 30? What? When?
What?
When?
Well, that's
When?
what happens when you have that's what happens when you have so much fun, Jess. That's what
So much
happens.
fun.
Time flies.
Time
You're
flies. Mm,
jet setting coast to coast.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Head over to Africa once in a while to see the people. Come back. All right,
All of
I'm
a
rubbing
sudden,
shoulders with important people.
all of a sudden, we turn 30. Crazy.
All of a sudden, something like, oh wait, what?
What?
Ah, okay.
Had to reevaluate
All
my
right,
life.
well, so so let's go here. So as a lady, as a full fledged woman,
Yeah.
what are the because what are the fears? What are your fears when it comes to turning 30, because I've observed uh, women that have been in this position before, where after they cross 30, they're like, wait a minute, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need family, I need three, 2.5 kids, I
Right.
need, I need to get all this stuff together in like 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, is is that real, or is that like, just however you want to handle it?
Yeah. That's a really good question, Rob. And I like to say that I'm not a type A person, but I am a type A person. And
We all listen. Everyone who knows you knows you take the bulls by the horns, but you do it in a very demure way. So we respect it.
oh, Rob, that's so nice. I need to write that down for like my next job interview. That's what I'm gonna say my strength is. Um,
Listen,
yes,
this
that is.
interview is more than just for my thing. It's for you too.
I love it. I love it. No, you're that's my mom. My mom is very much, get shit done and do it now. And that's very much in
Hmm.
my blood. And at the same time, I'm trying to balance it with just the serendipity of life and knowing that there's certain things that are outside of your control, and you just have to roll with the punches. But I would say, like, I don't like to quantify my life with time. Like, I'm not gonna say like, now I'm 30, now what? Now I'm 35, now what? Like, that to me can be very, very overwhelming. But naturally we do that because it's a solid, even time frame. I
Right.
definitely am in a place right now where, you know, I'm the kind of person where I'll accomplish something or do something, and I'll celebrate for like 5 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, now what? So that's good in the sense that I'm constantly pushing myself forward, but it's not healthy because I don't spend enough time just sitting where I am and just celebrating. And what I need to do right now
Mm.
is sit and soak in this moment. My career in terms of what I'm doing now, is it exactly where I want to be? No, but I don't even know what that is yet. Like, I'm still figuring that out. But I should just be happy with where I am instead of constantly pushing too hard, right? And there's a balance.
Right.
Um, in terms of like from a woman's perspective, I wouldn't say it's that much different than a man's perspective. I think we're always assessing who we are and what we want and when we want it. I'm married now, and I want a family. Of course, I want a family. I want kids, and sort of, we're sort of seeing how that pans out. But it's like there's so much happening, right? You have your life, right? And then you have a relationship or a
Hmm.
marriage with someone, and then you have family, right? And then you have work, and then you have like every other externality that's in the world, and you're always thinking about all these things. This is always circulating. And so to your question, yeah, there's definitely moments where I put a lot of pressure on myself, like I have to have 2.5 kids by 35. But
Hmm.
that's so unrealistic and so unhealthy. And I'm so glad that I have a partner who always, he's like my mirror and my rock in so many ways, and checks me all the time. Like, we just had a moment yesterday where he had to check me and be like, Jess, you're doing the most. And not to me, but to yourself. To yourself. Like, you're stressing yourself out. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Sometimes you need somebody just to say that, and for you to be like, yeah, you're right, and then move on. I literally was in the kitchen and I was like, okay, you're right, and I just walked away and I was like, yep, 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 he's right. um and so that pressure, I think, is very inherent, especially in Black women, that we're always hustling in so many different ways, whether we're hustling for our family to take care of our families, whether we're hustling to like for academics and school, whether we're hustling in our jobs. We walk in, and before we open our mouths or do anything, we have to prove ourselves, always. Always we have to show up 150% always, to at least have access. And I think that fuel is amazing because you see what Black women are able to accomplish but at the same time, there's a balance, and you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And that's something that I've learned, I would say, the past year or two, is self-care is so important. And that looks different for different people, whether it be, you work out, whether you get massages, whether, you travel, whether I cook. Cooking, when I say I love to cook, cooking is my self-care. That's where I'm able to shut my brain off and just be in my kitchen and make food. And it makes me so happy. And so if you're able to just turn your brain off for an hour a day and just take care of you, I think it's so important.
Mm, that this is beneficial. So when you were at Tufts during the 4 years,
Yeah.
how did you shut your brain off? What were the tactics you used to shut your brain off? Why when you were at school? Because for you, your circumstance is this: you grew up on the west side of Africa,
Yeah.
then on the east side of
East
Africa,
side,
then
yeah.
you grew up on the west side of the U.S. Now you in some place where
Hopping
it's the first
around.
time you've ever been cold.
Oh
It's,
God.
it's been cold. It's you have to walk uphill.
Mm,
It's
mm,
windy. It's
mm.
snowy.
You
It's
give me
just you're
PTSD,
not built
Rob.
for
PTSD right now.
it.
That corridor between Houston and Olin, oh my goodness. Your ears are on fire. Your ears are on fire. I don't miss that. I don't
Yeah.
miss
So how did you practice self care
Yeah.
during your time at Touch? Because I know that you were the type A personality, and you didn't know how to. It was a struggle for you to shut it off.
Yeah.
And I know you were on the go when you were at school,
Yeah.
but how were you able to handle it, or how did you try to handle it when
Yeah.
you were at Tufts?
It's a really good question. I've actually never thought about it because now it looks different, right? Every chapter of your life, that answer is going to look very different depending on what's happening. Um, you're
Hmm.
absolutely right. I did not turn off that much at Tufts, and it was like school and then like extracurriculars and all kinds of stuff. But now that I'm thinking about it, I realize, and again, this looks different for different people. For some people, shutting
Hmm.
off is connecting with friends, is like hanging out with people, and like that's your chill, your blood pressure is low. For me,
Right.
I grew up as an only child, and so I my shut off was being by myself, and I know that about myself.
Hmm.
And I married an only child, so it works out for us. And I recall, now that I'm thinking back to it, freshman year, obviously we all had roommates, but the next 3 years I was an RA, or a fellow, and so I had my own room, and I had a lot of friends at Tufts and people that I would hang out with, but I always went back to my space. And to me, that was so important. Like I needed to be able to go back to my dorm and close the door and shut down. And not shut down like, emotionally shut down, but to just be in my room, listen to music or watch TV, read a book, whatever. But I needed to disconnect. And now that I think
Right.
back on it, if I had, lived in a big house my senior year or whatnot, it would have been really hard to do that because all my friends and like all our whole community, we all did the same things and we would have always been on, like always been on. Even if you're just hanging out, you're talking about, the things that we're going to be doing tomorrow, the things we did today. And I think back now and I realized that subconsciously, without even really thinking about it, I knew that I needed to sort of have that personal space to disconnect. And if you ask Makeba or Sarah, um, they'd be, they would hit me up sometimes on a Saturday, like, hey, where are you? Like we're at, DeWick or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm in Boston. And I would just take the train. I would literally take the Joey, go to Davis, hop on the train, go into the city, and just walk around like wherever, and just be on my own, do a little shopping, whatever. And that's just, and I still do that today. Like Justin will hit me up, like, "Oh, where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm at Marshalls. I'm at Target." I just need to like, step away for a minute. And that's, we all have our own subconscious self-care rituals, and it looks different for different people.
Mhm.
So
Mm. I respect that. This the phrase not the phrase come up in my head. Not all who wander are lost. So
no,
that pretty much applies to
yeah,
what you were trying to what you were doing. Like, hey,
absolutely.
I had a rough week. I have a paper I need to turn in. You know what? I'm going to go to Target and just window shop for
Exactly.
vases or.
Exactly, Rob. You're feeling me, Rob. Exactly.
I, I can listen. I will testify that I'm middle child of three,
Yeah,
and I'm fine with being around people.
exactly.
You know the people I was around.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what we got to
Oh
do. We don't gotta get into that right now. We don't
yeah.
gotta get
Right,
into that right now.
right. Mm-hmm. The jungle juice. The jungle juice. Do not
listen,
drink the
listen,
jungle
jungle.
juice.
Don't drink the jungle juice, especially if it's in the Gatorade container.
And if it's in the Gatorade container, absolutely do not drink the jungle juice. I love it. Oh, I missed it. I miss it so much. You're really giving me some great memories.
Listen. We'll talk about this another time. But that's coming back. We're in the works. That's coming back. But we're going back to the programming. So, we're reminiscing about old times.
Yeah.
So, in your words, describe the black community when we were at school. So 2010 to 2014, describe the black community at Tufts.
It's interesting. So it changed every year. Not changed, but it felt different, I should say, every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's this pressure that as a student of color, whether your affinity is African American or Asian American or etc., that you have to hang out with that group, and that's not the case, right? Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
for all of us, there's an intersectionality of who we are. So I'm African American, I'm Arab American, I'm Muslim, I studied international relations. Like I found my niche communities in all of these groups. So for example, one of my really good friends, Maha, we were, in Houston Hall together freshman year, and we're both, Muslim women, and we went to the mosque on a Friday, and it felt like we were kind of marginalized as women. And I was like, this is not what's going to happen. And by our junior year, I was president of the MSA. And because we wanted to shift and shape what the MSA looked like and what it represented, the Muslim Student Association. Whether, for my African American, how I identify, I was joining different groups within the Africana Center. I was part of Emerging Black Leaders. Like I found all these spaces that aligned with my internal moral compass and what I was interested in. But the Black community writ large, I mean, we were all so different. And that was what's so beautiful about it. I mean, you have people who were solely focused on academics. You have people who were athletes. You had people who were a part of dance or music. You had a spectrum of what is Black. You had folks that were from Africa that were had come to school at Tufts. You had people that were Nigerian American or Ghanaian American but grew up in the United States. You had people who were from the South, from the West Coast, and that all makes you unique and different as a Black person. And what I appreciated is that there wasn't this pressure to like be one thing or assimilate to one idea of Blackness, and everybody was cool about that. I don't remember that being like the pressure point. Like we didn't really have like the sorority or Greek community, or say Greek community in general, and maybe that would have shifted and shaped things a little bit different, but we had it citywide, and if you wanted to be a part of that, then cool, you can be a part of that. There wasn't ever this pressure to be one thing. I would say that for those in the Black, this is what I remember. It wasn't for me, and so I don't want to speak for others, but what I recollect is like, if you were Black American or Black and you didn't hang out with some Black members of the community, I think there was a little bit of I don't even know what the word is, Rob. It's like, oh, they don't want to hang out with other Black people. And there was a little bit of that. And I didn't appreciate that. And I saw that with some people that were in our class or, in other classes. And it wasn't, it wasn't rampant. It wasn't a lot, but I do recollect that. And I hope that's not the case anymore, because everybody has their own experience and everybody wants their own experience, and we have to respect that.
Yeah, the benefit of, so like, I'll piggyback of what you said. We came to Tufts and everyone was able to express their own Blackness or just find it, and you didn't. The majority of people didn't really cast aspersions or try to pass judgment because we didn't know. We just knew that, okay, I'm here, you're here. Oh, you're born here, and you're American. Oh, my parents came from here. Oh, your parents were born here. Okay, cool. Like, I'll say that as an athlete myself, I was like, I don't give a damn what, like, just don't just be straight up with me, and I appreciate you. So I'm a very come as you are person, but the school from what I've heard is trending towards the more section off thing, and that's part of the reason why I want to at the very least get the people who were around me, after me, or even before me to try to say, like, listen, no matter whether you from Kansas or Kalamazoo or Kenya, you guys are here, and this is what connects you. Red strings of fate. We're all here. We're all intertwined. Don't try to separate yourself. You don't need to go alone. That's why we're here, because you can find gems. You can find people who are willing, ready, and able to support you and your work and just you as a person. So that goes to my next question. Do you feel that once you walked across that stage, you got that diploma, and you threw that hat up in the air like Bobby Schmurder, do you feel that Tufts prepared you for the real world?
It's a great question. I don't think any university is going to 100% prepare you for the quote unquote real world. I mean, and then on the flip side of that, there are people who come to college or come to university already equipped with the real world. They've seen things and experienced things that are far beyond their years. So it depends, right, who we're talking to and who we're talking about. For me personally, my parents put a lot of self-responsibility on me at a young age. I mean, I was filling out bills and doing balancing checkbooks at like 12. So I came in with that level of like self-responsibility, and that's still that's a string that continues, but that's me, right? In terms of quote unquote real world professionally, I would say that Tufts gives you or provides you opportunities that you need to go and get that will prepare you. And what I mean by that is, there are internships, there are fellowships, there are job opportunities during the summer or during the year that you can do, and that's going to expose you and show you what your career track could look like. And I always encourage young people and people in college, any break you get, whether it be summer or winter break, and yes, winter break too, you can do a quick 1 month thing, like an internship or a fellowship or a research project. That is what's going to, one, boost up your resume so you're ready to apply for jobs, and then show you what it is that that's out there. Like, if you really want to work at the Department of whatever and you get an internship there and you get there and you're like, oh, this is not it. then this is the perfect time to say this is not it, right? You're not tied, right? You're not paying bills, you're not paying rent. Like, this is the time to really start making those life decisions. In terms of Tufts in of itself, I would say that, again, I had a bit of an accelerated opportunity with high school, because high school exposed me to the inequalities that exist in the world, not within that school, not within just Tufts, but the world, and how it is as a Black person and as a Black woman, how I'm entering spaces, and how am I receiving people and their energy, and how am I putting myself in a good position. And what I mean by that, Rob, is, there were moments at Tufts that tried to knock us down, and whether they were intentional or unintentional, right? I'm not saying that there's bad professors, but there are. And I'm not saying that Tufts is trying to knock people down. That's not the case at all. If anything, they're trying to uplift us. But there are institutions, there are institutional barriers, there is a history in our country, and that exists everywhere. And so that exposure, that continued exposure, allowed me to enter the professional space, knowing that, and then knowing how to navigate it. And so now, for example, I work at the State Department and I work in the Middle East Bureau, and there are very few people. I mean, diversity is an issue across the State Department and across most US government agencies. But for where I am specifically, yeah, there's very few people who look like me in that space. And is that difficult? Are there challenges? Yes, absolutely. But I know now how to navigate them. And then I've found outlets to take care of myself when there are difficult days or difficult moments or challenges. And I would say Tufts, in its own way, prepares you for that.
See, I like that answer, because for more and more often I'm seeing that, if 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 the young ones of today don't, if the young ones of today, they see it more as just oppressive, and I'm not going to argue with them, because we know there's nuggets of truth in that. But I the what I'm trying to help them, and what I know you're trying to help them understand as well, is that, listen, shit's going to be hard as a Black body in this world. This world wasn't made for us at this point in time. You got to understand that. Listen, it's going to be harder for you just because you're you. Yeah. But so what are you going to do about it? It's either you're going to lay down, or you're going to get up and fight. And I say every single day, every day we're walking, every day we're talking, every day we're working. That is us fighting. We could give up and just call it a life, and just go to the winds. Yeah. But we choose not to, and that's the finding the beauty in the struggle. That's the thing that I want to. That's one of the things I want to help the young ones find, because everyone has had to do it, and we make it look damn good, and we can make it look even better if we team up and collaborate and share stories and things of that nature. Because at the very least, that someone has experienced this before you, and someone will experience this after you. Yeah. So if we want to stop this cycle, then what we're doing right now, it needs to be, me and you having just a nice conversation. It's got to expand. So this will be the first of many. So again, yeah. I like the insight. So Jessica is Miss International. We know this. Here's the question. You obviously you out of everyone I've known at Tufts, you probably have one of, if not the most diverse network, based on just everywhere you put yourself, all the job opportunities you've had, you just your geographic upbringing, where you've been. So I assume that you probably have like, the LinkedIn must be 1,500 strong. I'm assuming. And if I'm insulting you, then like I'm sorry because I probably know it's like 2,000, but I'm just throwing
I
out
don't
the
even
numbers.
know what it is at this
So
point, but yeah, okay.
she don't even keep track. she stopped counting at 750. I respect it.
No, LinkedIn is so interesting. It's like it's not like Instagram or other social media platforms. For me, I love connecting with people and I love seeing people and what they're doing. And so I'm not on there to like get likes or like have numbers. I'm on there to just see people, which is so interesting. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, please.
So I know that you have a very diverse network of people,
Yeah.
and your network equals your net worth. I already know that Jessica and Justin gonna be kicked up and out of here. I'm probably gonna be calling them for a loan sometime soon. But my point is this: um, your after graduating Tufts, I take it that your inner circle or just the people that call you on a regular basis or the people that you would reach out to on a regular basis, that's condensed probably like 70%. How after the Give us a recap of like the first 5 years of just the social life after you graduated school, because I got a question from someone and they asked, how do you maintain community after you graduate Tufts? And to me, it was like, well, you got your peoples. But
Yeah.
then I realized that if everyone these days is more on the maverick, just type A, I'm gonna do it, and if you can't help me, then you're a hindrance.
Yeah.
Then there's not much space for friendship to grow outside just utility. So in the first 5 years, as a not a hardcore type A, but a moderate type A, a mild type A. How have the years treated your circle, and how has it shrunken or grown or stayed just around the same size?
It's such an interesting question, Rob, because it's like I remember graduation day, like literally the day, and it's like ingrained in my brain, the energy, and it was sunny, it was nice out, and people were packing up still, family was there, and we all just kind of like get in a car or get in a mode of transportation and we just leave. And that's it.
Right.
We all go do like family dinners or lunches or whatever, and then we all just depart. And it feels really stark. It's not phased. It's not phased out, right? You don't just like some people leave one day and the next day some other people leave. Like it's just you're here and you're gone. And
Right.
and I remember, in the moment we all go see our families and whatnot. We don't talk for a few days because we're all busy. We're moving or we're like transitioning or whatever. And I get back to San Diego, and then you're kind of like in this, and I don't like to use the word depressive or depression lightly, but you kind of, the roller coaster,
Melancholy.
yeah, this very melancholy. The roller coaster comes down, and you're like, oh,
Right.
okay, now what? Like I just spent the last 4 years with all these people, and I see them every single day, breakfast, lunch, and
Right.
dinner sometimes, and classes, and dance class, and music class, and extracurriculars, and we're up all night studying, and then we get up. It's like you're with these people all the time, and then you're not. And that
Hmm.
divorce is like an emotional roller coaster. And then after a couple weeks or so, then you start, figuring out ways to connect with people, especially if people move, like they're all across the country or the world. And
Right.
there's ups and downs, and I would say, for me personally, I did not do a really good job of like really keeping in touch with people, and that's on me. That's 100% on me, because I had so much going on at home. I have two parents that were going through health issues. I had, started a new job. And that was my world. That was my priority, was my family. And I prioritized that over friendship, and over sort of that personal connection. And so I made new friends in the city I was now back in. So I reconnected with people from high school, and then in my new job, I had a really great community of friends, like really, really solid. And so I found that personal connection there, and not, with my best friends over the phone every day or every couple of days. We would just touch base via text or whatever, like, once a week or every few days. And then that time frame, expanded more and more and more. I would say now that we've it's like 5-ish years out, and now it's like I'm trying to sort of rebuild that again, because there's value in it, not for personal growth or like personal connection, but just to keep, those are people that you spent 4 years with that were so pivotal, and we all went through so much together, right? We all went through loss, we went through happy moments, we went through painful moments, we went through scary moments, we went through precarious moments, like all of that together, and I don't want to lose that. And so now I'm doing what I can to try to keep in touch with folks. And what I this sounds like really not very humble and very arrogant of me to say this, but what I appreciate is
talk your shit.
What I appreciate is that when I do see people from Tufts, and not just in the Black community, in general, whether it be in person or if I run into them or if we reconnect on social media, it is so genuine. It is so genuine. Like if I ran into somebody at a bar who went to Tufts here, and we didn't know that we were both in Baltimore. And it was like an immediate, like a fangirl. I was like, oh my God. Ah! And, and it becomes this moment where nothing's changed, right? There's no fallout. There's no like strings that are cut. It's just life. And life pivots and changes for people in very different ways. And we all know what's happening in our life, but we don't know what's happening in somebody else's life. On the facade, on social media, on the outside, someone may look like everything is, easy peasy and shiny and wonderful, but you don't know what people are going through on the back end and what they're processing and what they're dealing with. And so I'm a huge proponent of giving people grace always, 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 and never assume malintent or that someone is sort of, malicious in any kind of way. Because I personally know I've had friends say like, girl, where you been? And I don't want to unload all the things that I'm personally going through. But at the same time, I know that if someone is being distant or someone isn't checking in, they're dealing with something. And so giving people grace, but also finding ways to keep in touch. And there may not be a phone call. Not everybody wants to be on the phone. Sending, silly memes, or finding ways to keep that string still there, I think is really important. It's a very long answer, Rob, but you're making me, really think hard about what the next sort of chapter is, and how do we maintain relationships that are authentic.
I mean, we all shit. I got to think about these things too, and I'm always like you. I'm always actively trying to figure out what's next, because one idea comes up, and then the next idea comes up, and then squirrel. You goes to something else. Attention, it goes somewhere else. You have no idea. You're trying to balance things, and then something happens, and then you gotta pay a bill or something steals your attention. And that usually happens, and that happens constantly. And I've also been trying to keep the connections going. And my circle, I'll say my circle is just real tight. I got like I can count the people that I talk to on two hands
Yeah.
from Tufts, and that's not even on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I want to profess that you are one of them people because I know that this is good stock. Okay, I know that Jessica's thorough, so I'm like, you know what? Nah, like this is a good woman right here. So I'm like, I want to be numero uno cheerleader for whatever she got going on because I know that
And vice
she was
versa.
she was she was not. People. I'm telling you. I'll say it right now. I'm fanboy. Fanboy. I was a fan of what she was doing because every time when during school, she was either going to an event here, event there, representing people over here, representing people over there, putting up for the year, and it's just like she's just doing all the shit, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do much else other than just sit there and be admired. And as a man, I'm like, she's doing all that. What are you doing? I'm like, okay, if she can do that, I can definitely do something that's just as worthwhile. Now, at school, I can't say that what I was doing would be on the front of Tufts daily, but I do feel that did I was able to create a space where people
You
could
did.
cut loose,
You did. Yeah,
and
I was actually. I'm sorry, I totally
go
interrupted
ahead.
you. No, I don't want to lose
All right,
this.
go ahead.
I'm totally interrupted because I don't want to lose this. I wanted to talk about it earlier. Is you all in that house? There was a question you asked earlier about like the Black community and what it was like. And had we not had your house, and you guys were there for a couple of years, um, or
Yeah.
a couple of other, like some people were in, was it Hillsides? And there was a
Yeah,
couple of people
Hillside, Sogo, all that.
Go, all that. And I think that you need these convening spaces, these community spaces where it's casual and it's a party. It's a party and
Yes.
everybody's invited. It's not, it's not exclusive. It's not you need an invite. You just show up and you just get to hang out and it's safe. It's safe. And I'm not saying physically safe as in someone's going to get hurt, but as a Black person, it is safe for you to just be. And I would say that
Yeah.
you and your roommates and your friends created that space where people could just drop by, hang out, and it wasn't like, I mean, you guys were the cool kids, but it didn't feel like, oh, I have to be a cool kid to be here. Anybody could be there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And like that's what we want because like it's funny that you say that we're the cool kids. We just played football for a team that was struggling.
Y'all were not
so we
good,
were like,
Rob. Y'all were just embarrassing us, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there.
oh no, we can. Oh, I'll go there for you. Listen, people. 2010, 2014, that was the dark ages of Tufts football because
Oh,
as of late, Tufts football been winning like crazy. But in 4 years, I think it was like one dub. I'm like, dog. People were
it
like, yo,
was
what y'all doing?
it was a struggle. It was a struggle. We supported y'all though. We supported y'all. That's all that mattered.
Yes, exactly. And it's a testament. Um, Great. The best relationships are not when everything's cool. You build the best relationships, and you get the most out of people when it's tough. You gotta go through something in order to really feel that someone's in your corner. Because when you're down and out, you see who's around you.
Yeah.
We were all struggling in the house. We were all like really trying to figure out what the hell's going on. How we came here to do one thing. We came here because of football and other sports, and we can't get on. When we're losing, with this, with that. But we realize that listen, even if we're losing, even if we're struggling, like
Yeah.
we're still in it together,
Yeah.
and that was the beneficial thing. And then we carried it over to the community where it was like, listen, we know that it's not easy for the black people, brown people, Asian people, however you want to identify. We know it's not easy.
Yeah.
So you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a house out there. We're going to, let your hair down, come by on a Thursday, and just hang out with us because we like come as you are. We don't cast aspersions. As long as you respect us and respect our space, we don't care. Just come through. And that was important. And like, even though that won't make the paper, I'm still happy that your stuff made the paper. But I was happy that I was able to create a space where after you were done with all your meetings, you could come through and say, Rob.
Exactly, Rob. And that to me is just as important. Seriously. Just as important.
Walk through with the pantsuits on, like, Rob, I need something. What you got for me?
Just not the jungle juice. Just not the jungle juice.
Just give me something that's already sealed. Just don't give me no mixture.
I would literally have, some PBRs, just not the jungle juice. I love it. And I want to say, just one more note on the house, which is something that I think is so important, especially as a woman, is that I always felt safe. And I say that, and I say that with like all honesty, is that it wasn't a house where I felt like I had to watch my drink or I had to like have eyes in the back of my head. I felt safe there. And I can't say that was the case for very many spaces at Tufts. And I don't want to sort of like scare people. I don't want to scare people, but it's like we're always on guard as women. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
Right.
And I think it's so important as a Black community that we create spaces that are safe for Black women. That we have brothers and comrades that will always look out for us. And I think that's something that as advice, right, or as guidance is, if you're able to create that space, make sure it's very intentional and making sure that we're taking care of each other.
Right. Because, for us in the house, we understood that, you play a role and then we also play a role. And then, you were able to help if we need something from you, we could ask you, but if you need something from us, we like, scratch my back, scratch yours, but it's also, operating in good faith, that kind of thing. So that's the stuff I treasured. All right. So the good question, Black love. Let's talk about it. You met the man of the hour, okay, Justin Jones. Okay, you met this man all right. Story time. Near the end of senior year, we're hanging out, and then Jessica said like she wants to hang out with us. Like, oh damn, Jessica doesn't hang out with us. All right, let's do it. And it was after like the spring fling, and then we were like, yo, Jessica was like, Rob, we're gonna cook. I'm like, for real? Like, I'm gonna make burgers. Like, for real?
Oh my gosh! You are bringing back memories.
So you remember what we did was we had two cars, my car and Clint's car. We hopped into the cars. We got all the beers. We got the ground chuck from the Stop and Shop. We got, we were ready. And then you were chefing the storm on the George Foreman grill.
Wow.
Throw back.
You just went into like a morsel of my brain that just was like, oh my gosh, yes.
That happened, and that was the first time I met Justin. Man, that man was dope. Oh. Man, super cool. Oh. Super cool, man. We were all like, man, this your guy? I like this guy.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
Also, Ice JJ Fish. We bonded over that. That shit was amazing.
Over what?
Over Ice JJ Fish.
What's that?
Remember that meme of that dude that sang like terribly? There's something about you, girl.
Oh my god. Why did that pop up randomly like a couple weeks ago? We were watching something on like YouTube and that popped up. Wow. Okay. Yes,
Yep.
I
Yep.
remember all that.
Yep.
I remember all that. That's awesome. That's awesome. No, Justin was
So.
like what do you call it? A student emeritus at Tufts. He was,
Mhm.
um, very much a part of the Tufts community.
Honorary.
Honorary. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, man. So like, that's the man of the hour. How'd you find this man? What like take us through it.
Oh my goodness. Um, so we met in high school actually, and not many people know that.
Wow.
So he went to St. Seb's in Boston or in Mass.
Mhm.
And like I said, I went to Loyola Country Day School in San Diego, and we both attended this. And anybody who went to like a private school or a private institution or whatever, probably who's of color, probably either heard of or went to this conference called SDLC, the Student Diversity Leadership Conference. And what it does is
Mm.
it brings in students of color and allies to a city, and it changes every year. And it's like 3,000 kids from all across the country that come in, and their faculty that come in, and we provide them. The conference provides you the toolbox of how to navigate sort of being a student of color or the intersectionality of who you are in a private institution. So that's why, going back to what I said about transitioning to Tufts, because of all these opportunities and privileges that I had, I was able to flip the switch and like I said, enter that space with a little bit more ease, I would say. But anyway, we met
Mhm.
there. We did it. So in his mind, I'm the one who first hit on him, but that is not true. That is not true. Um, we we were both students at this conference, and then I went back to San Diego. He went back to Boston, and I think he added me on Facebook or whatever. Back then, we just added everybody, and we just started chatting. We started
Mhm.
chatting on Facebook, and then we started chatting on Instant Aim back in the day.
Yep.
All our screen names.
Yeah.
He was Skater Boy something, and I was like Egyptian Princess something. So lame. And we would just chat. We would just chat like about school, about whatever. We would go on Skype and like talk, and we became really good friends. This was our like junior year of high school. And then he ended
Mhm.
up going to BU, and I ended up going to Tufts, and we were friends for the first couple of years of college, and then we started dating our junior year of college. And like to this day, he's my best friend above anything. And so
Oh.
that to me is just the definition and premise of Black love, is finding true friendship with someone that's real and authentic, and there's no guise, there's no mask. It's who you are and who he is, and you're able to grow up together. We were babies when we first met, and I've seen him grow as a man, and he's seen me grow as a woman, and we've both been anchors for each other in that growth. And if you're able to find that, especially at that age, like there's a balance, right? Like I'm not a proponent of being in a relationship super early and like being with one person your whole life. Like I'm all about live your best life. And like go do your thing, travel the world, have fun. But in the midst of that, if you meet someone that you align with at a very intrinsic level, then don't let it go. I think we a lot of us
Mhm.
get caught up, especially in college, of I need to like not be tied down. I want to like have fun, like do my thing and meet different people. And absolutely, absolutely. But at the same time, if you're able to meet someone that's and it's there's something magical, I would say, um, fight for it. Because there were definitely moments, I would say, where we could have just broken up, because not because we didn't care about each other or love each other, but because we were so young. But we made it work. Um,
Mhm.
and we were long distance for about 2 years after that, when I went back to San Diego and he was still in Boston, finishing up school and working. And
Mhm.
we made it work. We still made it work. And then when I moved to DC, I said, hey, so I'm in DC now, and I think I'm going to end up being here for a bit. um let's figure out how we're going to get you here. And he worked his ass off to get a job, in the DMV, and then here we are, and we got married, 3 years ago, and I, love is love, and love can be found in all different shapes, sizes, colors. I'm not saying that when I say I'm a proponent for Black love, or let's talk about Black love, I'm not saying that has to be the case, but
Mm-hmm.
as a Black couple, when we walk out, I'm so proud of what we represent and what we can show young Black kids. Like, there's a young girl who lives next door, and sometimes we'll sit out on the deck and like have dinner or whatever and a glass of wine, and she'll come out, playing outside or whatever, and I could just see her looking at us, and I'm hoping in her mind she's thinking, I can have that too. I can have a home, and I can have a relationship that's healthy, and I deserve love also. And so when I say I'm a proponent for Black love, in the sense of our people have been through so much trauma, and when we're able to find this glimmer of hope and this bit of love, hold on to it with, your hands and fists and everything. Because the world will try to defy you and push the relationship in so many different ways, but hold on to it.
Got it. I mean, listen, you won. I'm gonna tell you right, and you won because it's getting hard. You've seen the way things are these days. You're
Never
a
be in a
observant
dating app
person.
right now. Oh my goodness.
It's rough out there for the ladies and the guys out there. It's rough.
Yeah.
Like, but that's why that's another part of the reason why I'm cheering for you, because you won. You did it.
So let me
You
ask,
got a
can I
guy.
ask you a question, Rob? When you say it's rough, what do you
Please.
mean?
I say it's rough in the fact that more and more individuals, more and more ladies struggle to have your mindset, where it's a longevity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the individual. You're looking. You're not looking at what you didn't look at what Justin had at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at the character of the man, not the possessions of the man.
Mm.
And it's my fear that a lot of the younger the Zennials, the Gen Z individuals, and some of the millennials like us, we have shifted more towards what's superficial than what's inside.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that it's rough out here, because social media has taken over like everyone's lives at this point.
Yeah.
And like you every day you're checking your feed, saying like, oh, who's doing what, or oh, should I be posting, should I not be posting, am I doing enough because this person's over here, this person's over there, this person's doing that, this person's driving that, this person got that. It's always it's like, people don't realize that the social media is a highlight reel.
Yeah.
It's not the reps. People didn't, like, you could post your ring, right? And people will say, "Oh my God, Jess, that's a great ring," but they don't know how many fights you had with Justin. They don't know how many conversations you had until 4 in the morning. They don't know how many years that you had to spend cross country missing the man that you love. But it took you all that to get to that ring, and people are like, I'm saying it's rough because it's a true investment. And that's why I'm saying that you won, and that's why I'm saying that I'm proud of you and that I'm a cheerleader, because you understood it, you found it, you found a good man, and now you guys are building something that could be passed on to generations. You already have that mindset, and that's beautiful to see. And and part of that is why I'm glad you're speaking about it, because a lot of people, they may be wrapped up in, what can he provide me, instead of how can we construct something together. And I'm glad you're bringing that to light with the path that you and Justin walked down.
Yeah, definitely. No, you are so eloquent in your answer, Rob, and I hear the sort of the passion in your voice of what we're trying to get at here. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right in everything that you're saying. People don't see what's happening on the back end and what sacrifices are made. And like everybody's different, right? Everybody views relationships differently. They grew up in different households, but in order for any relationship to be successful and to move forward, you have to one communication. That is huge, huge, huge. But you have
Right.
to be um, accepting of the good and the bad and the ugly. And and I'm not saying ugly in the sense of like an abusive relationship or something like that. That's a completely different situation. But that there are challenges. I mean,
Right.
when Justin and I first got together, first of all, we were babies, but post college, we didn't, we both didn't have anything. We were both fresh off, getting new jobs and doing our thing. We didn't have any money, and we built this together. Like we can look at this and say, we did this. Not you, not
Hmm.
me. We did this. And for people to break that mindset, that's on them, right? Like as a man or a woman or whoever is in the relationship, like that's on you to be able to say, we can go through the good and the bad together, because at the end we will make it together.
That,
But you're right,
man,
it's a mindset. It's a mindset.
that's a word right there. That's a word right there. I'll just add on to that, and I'll say, even if black love don't even gotta mean like the companionship. Don't and it certainly don't mean just the eros, the just mano y mano sexual relationship. It's more of like you got to fill out the other aspects of it, because you also got the agape and you got the philos. You got agape, which is like selfless.
Yep.
You know, you see that girl when you outside drinking your wine. The agape says, "Hey, how are you? What's going on? How was school today?"
Yeah.
She's gonna remember that,
Yeah.
and she's gonna be like, "Oh, Miss Wilson Jones, she asked me how school was today, and
Yeah.
then she came over to me, and then like she helped me with my math homework, and
Mm-hmm.
like she's telling me how she works in Washington and all this cool stuff. I'm gonna grow up just like her. That
Mm-hmm.
is humongous.
Yeah.
That's humongous."
Yeah.
And then the philos is like the brotherly love, the sisterly love, the community, where like you ain't gotta be next door, but they can be. But just like how you've been keeping in touch with people on the LinkedIn, you'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while, but you crossed my mind. I want to say hi. If we can catch up for like a cool 15 minutes sometime next week, then I'll love to do that." And you keeping the bond strong, that also brings together the philos aspect of love and black love, and that
Absolutely.
is important. What the point I want to drive home is this: you and I understand, and I hope the audience understands as well, that it's more about it's more, you have to value the people for who they are,
Yeah.
instead of not including what they can do, but you have to start with who they are. And if you value people on who they are and how they come, and you say you're valuable because you're here, you wouldn't be here if fate didn't want you to be here.
Yeah.
And then because you're here, you have my time, you have my space. I value you. And
Absolutely.
if you if you act right, cool. If you don't act right, I'm gonna remove myself. But the point is that you give them the grace of like, okay, you here, I'm gonna treat you this way, and it's on them to receive it however they receive it. But in general, people are grateful for you spending the time with them, and that's one thing I really do want to stress, that it comes down to seeing other humans as valuable, because we like I said previously, and like you will find out in the future, because you already got it. Your network is your net worth. You understand this, and that's why you're going to succeed. I would like to say I understand it, but we'll see what happens. But the point is that like you gotta build these bonds with people in order to truly be able to elevate yourself to the next level. Because you can run fast by yourself, or you can go far with a team.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of your experience is proof of that. Even though you were only child, you chose to you chose to put yourself around people and understand that, hey, I can find this person, this person, this person, and we can team up and do something big.
Yeah.
And you did that,
Yeah.
and that is
Absolutely.
the impressive part. And
Absolutely.
that people, is why number one fanboy for Jessica Wilson Jones.
Always my biggest cheerleader, always and always will be. To what you're saying in the whole conversation we've had tonight, my mom, there's an Egyptian sort of like saying, I'm translating in my head. It's, you need two hands to clap, right? You can't clap with one hand. You can't clap with one hand. You can try. You need two hands to clap, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be your friendship, whether it be, whatever it is. You need a community, you need other people to help you move forward. And so I sort of always, tell people, do what you need to take care of yourself, but make sure that you're always supporting others, looking back to see where that support is needed, and know that you cannot do it by yourself. I would not be here on my own. Whether it be my family, my friends, my professional network, all of that. All of that has led to sort of where I am and where I continue to go. And I wouldn't have the life I have now, not the physical stuff, not the material stuff. I couldn't care less about that. But I wouldn't have this anchored sense of who I am without Justin. And if you're able to find that, whether it be in a relationship or a friendship or whatever it looks like, it doesn't have to be a relationship, hold on to it with dear life, because you need it. We can go through life on our own, absolutely. But we always need friendship. We always need love. We always need family. We always need somebody to be in front of us, leading the way. We need somebody next to us, holding our hand, and someone behind us pushing us, always. And so that's sort of my parting words.
This is wonderful. All right, I've taken enough of this woman's time. Jess, much appreciated. We're going to do this in the future.
I love it.
We're going to do this in the future. What do you got to plug? Because I know that you be busy out here. You be out here. What do you got to plug for the people? Because I know you were just on an interview. So
let's do it. So let's see, like the tangible. For students that are at Tufts, I always put a plug in for Tisch College and their summer fellowship program, their Tisch summer program. And I did that my junior to senior year. And they basically will, support. It's an application process, but they'll support and pay for you to come out to DC and do an internship here, and they'll pay for your housing and all the good stuff. And it is amazing. It's a great network. I still keep in touch with a lot of people that were in my cohort. So I would 100% look at all the different opportunities that Tisch College offers. Take a look at, for those who are interested in international relations, but even not your traditional like IR people, even those who are in medicine or in engineering, I would take a look at the Institute for Global Leadership, IGL, at Tufts. They offer some really great classes and programs, but then also fellowships and internship support as well. Those are two sort of things that were pivotal for me at Tufts, and I definitely recommend it. And like, go ask. I am like the biggest, until now, it drives Justin crazy, but I'm the first person to call customer service and be like, is there a way to get a better deal on this? Is there a way that we can sort of like, I don't understand this bill. I legit just got rid of like a $800 bill on my insurance because I asked. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And she's like, actually, we can, rejigger things, and I'll get rid of that. And you have a $20 copay. My point is, ask. Go into the, well, not physically now, but when you can, go in, ask the questions, sit with the person, be like, what can Tufts do for me? Because I am doing all that I can for you as an institution. What can you provide me? How can you help me accelerate my career? I'm not a proponent for, oh, I have to come in at a junior level and make my way up. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can come in at a higher level. You have to ask. You have to push yourself. And so that's sort of my tangible plug. My intangible, and I had this conversation with a couple of students last week that were prepping the Black Women's Empowerment Conference that I was a part of, and shout out to them, Safia, and all the great work that they're doing. And I mentioned, you said it yourself too, Rob. Your network is your net worth, and I think that's so true. And making sure that when you're building your network, that it's authentic, that you're not just trying to get something out of someone, that you're building, building true relationships and friendships with people, so they know who you are, they know what guides you and what you're interested in, and they're able to sort of open up doors for you. And so I'm a proponent for, whether it be through LinkedIn, whether it be through your Tufts community, your high school community, finding ways to connect with folks and build really authentic mentors and networks around you. That is going to be pivotal as you move forward in your career.
Oh, yeah, y'all youngins better listen up now, okay? You just got some sage advice from Mrs. Wilson Jones. It's very important.
I love it. I love it.
All right. This is awesome, man. We're gonna do this again. Because there's just so much you can get out of an hour and a half, but I know that people want to hear your perspective, and this will happen in the future. But until then,
let's do it,
ma'am. Thank you very much once again. The illustrious. I'm going to keep bigging you up because this is what I do. the illustrious, vaunted, most specialist guest thus far.
I appreciate it. I love you very much, and I love everything that you're doing. And anytime reach out, I am the first one to respond.